The city was wrapped in a gray curtain of rain that night. The streets shimmered under the dim glow of streetlights, puddles reflecting the blurred colors of neon signs. It was one of those evenings when even the air felt cold and lonely. Inside a sleek black car, Arthur Blake, the youngest CEO of a global corporation, sat impatiently scrolling through his phone. To the world, he was power and precision, an unshakable man of numbers and logic. To those who worked under him, he was known simply as the Ice King. The car halted at a red light near an abandoned intersection. Arthur barely noticed the outside world, until a flicker of movement caught his eye. Through the rain-streaked window, he saw a young woman crouched beside a closed bakery door. Her thin coat clung to her shoulders, soaked through completely. In her arms, she held a baby wrapped in a faded pink blanket, shielding him with her own body from the relentless downpour. The tiny child's hand reached up, brushing her face, and she smiled, softly, tenderly, though her lips were trembling from the cold. Arthur frowned. He didn't understand that kind of smile, the kind that existed in pain, yet held peace. He told himself not to look, but his eyes refused to move away. Around her, people passed without stopping, umbrellas tilting, eyes avoiding, steps quickening. She didn't ask for help. She didn't even look up. She just rocked the baby gently, whispering something that only the rain could hear. For a brief second, Arthur felt something stir inside him, a faint, forgotten ache. He remembered another rainy night, long ago, when he too had waited for someone who never came. The traffic light turned green, snapping him back to reality. His driver glanced in the rearview mirror. "Sir, should I move forward?" Arthur hesitated. His jaw tightened. "Yes," he said quietly, and the car rolled on. But as the image of that fragile woman faded in the rear window, something inside him didn't move at all. It stayed there, beneath the rain, beside the flickering streetlight, like a quiet question he couldn't answer. That night, for the first time in years, the cold CEO couldn't sleep. The next morning came wrapped in fog, but the image of the woman in the rain still haunted Arthur's thoughts. He told himself it didn't matter, that people like her were everywhere, that life was unfair, and it wasn't his problem. Yet, as his driver pulled the car up to the company entrance, Arthur's eyes drifted toward the same street corner they had passed the night before. She was there again. This time, she sat beneath a half-broken awning, her arms curled protectively around her baby. The blanket looked even thinner, and her clothes clung to her like paper. The child whimpered softly, and she tried to hush him, her voice barely audible over the drizzle. Arthur's driver noticed his gaze. "Sir," he said cautiously, "should I call someone from security?" "She might be." Arthur cut him off. "No. Stop the car." Before the driver could protest, Arthur opened the door and stepped out into the cold rain. He rarely walked anywhere without an umbrella or an assistant, yet there he was, standing in the middle of the wet pavement, rain sliding down his suit, his shoes soaking through. The woman looked up, startled. Her eyes were pale and tired, but not defeated. "Do you have somewhere to go?" Arthur asked, his voice sharper than intended. She shook her head, holding her child tighter. "I'm fine," she murmured. "I just need to keep him warm." There was something about the way she said it, so calm, so sure, that unsettled him. She didn't beg, she didn't explain, she simply existed in quiet strength. Arthur looked down, unsure what to do. The part of him that made ruthless business decisions wanted to turn away. But, the human part, the one he had buried under years of success and solitude, took a single step forward. He handed her his umbrella. "Keep this," he said curtly, his tone hiding the warmth he didn't want to show. Her lips parted in surprise. "But, sir, just take it," he interrupted, turning before she could thank him. As he walked back to the car, the rain kept falling, heavier than before. Yet, for the first time in years, Arthur felt its chill differently. It didn't just touch his skin, it reached his heart. That small gesture, meant to be forgotten, would soon change both of their lives forever. The rain had stopped the next morning, but its echo still lingered in Arthur's mind. The sound of it against the car window, the sight of that fragile woman clutching her baby, it refused to fade away. He sat at his office desk, surrounded by glass walls and polished wood, yet his thoughts felt distant, scattered like raindrops on a stormy night. Arthur Blake was a man who prided himself on control. He built his empire by keeping emotion and business strictly apart. But now, emotion had broken through the barrier, and it bothered him. Every document he signed, every meeting he attended, was blurred by the memory of that soft, trembling smile under the streetlight. Finally, unable to focus, he called in his assistant, Claire. "Claire," he said, his tone unusually quiet, "I need you to find out about a woman. She was near the old bakery on 9th Street last night. Early 20s, carrying a baby. Find her." Claire blinked in surprise. She had worked for him 5 years and never heard him ask about anyone outside the corporate world. But she simply nodded. "Yes, sir." Hours passed. Arthur tried to immerse himself in spreadsheets, but every time he glanced at the window, he imagined her there, in the cold, trying to protect her child. When Claire finally returned, her expression was heavy. "Her name is Lily Evans," she said softly. "She was a nurse. Her husband died in a car accident last year. A few months later, their apartment caught fire. She lost everything: home, savings, documents. She's been moving from shelter to shelter since then. She doesn't beg for money. She only asks for milk for her baby." Arthur leaned back in his chair, silent. He felt something twist inside him. Lily Evans, a woman who had lost everything but refused to lose her dignity. She was offered help to place the baby in care, Claire continued, but she refused. "Said he's all she has left." Arthur turned toward the window. The city skyline glittered with sunlight now, but he couldn't feel its warmth. For years, he believed strength came from wealth and power. Yet, in that moment, he realized real strength was what that woman carried, in her arms, in her heart, in her hope. That realization marked the first crack in the Ice King's heart. 2 days passed, but Arthur couldn't shake Lily's story from his mind. He read her file over and over again, staring at the faded photograph clipped to the corner, a woman smiling faintly in a nurse's uniform, her eyes gentle and kind. He didn't know why it mattered to him. He only knew that something deep within him refused to let her become just another forgotten face in the rain. That afternoon, Arthur told Claire to clear his schedule. He didn't offer an explanation. He simply drove to the address listed in her file. The car stopped outside a small, run-down shelter tucked behind a church. He stepped out quietly, leaving his driver behind, and walked through the narrow gate. Inside, he saw women and children huddled together, volunteers serving soup, and in one corner, Lily, rocking her baby, trying to calm his soft cries. She looked up as he approached, her expression uncertain. "You again," she whispered, as if half dreaming. Arthur nodded slightly. "I wanted to see if you're all right." She smiled faintly, though her face showed exhaustion. "We're managing. The shelter's been kind. I'm just trying to start over." Her words struck him harder than he expected. Trying to start over. How many times had he told himself that after his own parents' deaths, after years of loneliness hidden behind boardroom success? He had built walls to survive. She was building hope. Without thinking too long, he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an envelope. "This isn't charity," he said firmly. "It's an opportunity." Lily looked at the envelope but didn't take it. "What kind of opportunity?" "My company runs a health foundation," Arthur explained. "We need someone with medical training, someone who understands compassion. There's a position for you. And housing, too." Her lips trembled. "Why me? You don't even know me." Arthur paused, his voice lower now, almost vulnerable. "Because once, I lost everything too. But no one stopped for me. You remind me what kindness looks like." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The baby cooed softly, rain began to fall again outside, and Lily's tears mixed with a quiet, grateful smile. That day, in a small shelter drenched in silence, two hearts, one hardened by success, the other softened by pain, began to heal. Months passed, and the seasons quietly changed. Spring arrived, brushing the once gray city with warmth and color. Inside the grand glass tower of Blake Industries, the atmosphere felt different too, lighter, somehow more human. And at the heart of that change was Lily Evans. Arthur often watched her from a distance, never out of pride, but from a quiet sense of awe. Lily had transformed from a fragile woman hiding beneath a broken awning into a confident nurse once more, leading a small community health program funded by the company. Her laughter now filled the halls where silence once ruled. The baby she had cradled under the rain was now healthy and rosy-cheeked, often seen crawling around the daycare center Arthur had built for employees' children. He never spoke about why he created the program. When his board members asked, he simply said, "Because it's needed." But inside, he knew the truth. It was her courage that rebuilt his faith in humanity. One evening, Arthur visited the shelter where they first met. The same flickering streetlight still stood there, but now the area was transformed, clean, warm, filled with hope. Lily had organized volunteers to renovate it, turning it into a safe space for struggling mothers. She greeted him with that same gentle smile, only this time it wasn't shadowed by despair. "Mr. Blake," she said softly, "you didn't have to come." He looked around, his voice low but sincere. "I just wanted to see what hope looks like, and I think I've found it." Lily's eyes glistened. "You gave me a chance when no one else would. You didn't just help me, you helped me believe again." Arthur smiled faintly. "No, Lily, you reminded me that I still had a heart." As he left that evening, the rain began to fall again, just as it had on the night they first met. But this time, Arthur didn't hide from it. He walked slowly, letting the drops wash over him. They didn't feel cold anymore. That night, the man once known as the Ice King finally understood the warmth that no amount of money could buy, the warmth of compassion. And from that day forward, Arthur Blake made it his life's mission to share it with the world.